Hello and welcome to the AfterParty, conversations with Spy Party players. Today we're joined by seizureman.
I
Hey, right. What is Spy Party? Is the question I get the guest each week to answer. So, take it away, seizureman. What is Spy Party?
Spy Party is a game where one player, the sniper, has to find another player, the spy, who has to complete a set of objectives at a party, and the sniper has to use his own intuition and also staring at like statues or whatever to figure out who it is. That sounded a lot worse out loud than in my head. Anyways,
No, it's a good description. There's a room. You got to look at the room, figure out who isn't controlled by the computer. Although
yeah,
it's
that actually
yeah, it's.
don't outstage me, okay?
I'm sorry. I was trying to say what you were saying. But anyway, so this is still a very rough early show because we're still figuring out what the show is. But the general idea we have is that the After Party is a show where we talk to Spy Party players. Because I think Spy Party is a cool game and it's a game about people, and so it seemed like a good idea to talk to the people who play a game about people because people are interesting. So what we do as a general structure of the show is we've got a subject we're going to talk about, a feature of the game, if you will, that seizureman has picked out. So seizureman, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, I picked highlights and lowlights, but it could go anywhere.
So what are highlights and lowlights in the context of this game where you stare at a room full of people?
So the sniper has this little laser, and I'm not sure in the lore of Spy Party how it works, but basically he can highlight or lowlight players to kind of mark them suspicious or not suspicious and keep them either in the forefront of his mind or in the back of it. And that kind of just, I don't know, it helps a lot. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's a tool for managing your own attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're a sniper, I should say, um, how do you tend to think about it? This feature of managing your attention, like what's your rules of thumb for using highlights and lowlights?
Oh God. Highlights. I try not to lowlight people in the first like 15 seconds. That's not true. 10 seconds, just because people haven't taken control yet. And then lowlights kind of go to anything that I deem kind of not suspicious. It could be anything and changes on my mood, so
Hmm.
it's hard to explain. And highlights are just for anything that kind of is suspicious. I try to keep them soft, and I'll try to remember hard lowlights for other stuff. And
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you term the difference between a soft and a hard lowlight? Because people might not know what you mean by that. What's a soft versus a hard highlight?
So a hard highlight means you shoot the spy. Hard lowlight is let's say the banana bread goes off, hypothetically. Everyone outside of conversation you know with 100% certainty isn't the spy. So you can low light them and be confident and they're out of your mind forever. While a soft low light could be like, well, he went to statues 3 times. I don't really think a spy would do that in his right mind, so I'm going to low light him.
Right. I guess we should say for context, when seizureman said the banana bread goes off, he did not mean that somebody baked a banana bread and it went bad. What he meant was there's a mission in the game called Contact Double Agent, and in it, the spy walks into a conversation circle with a double agent who's marked as a suspected double agent, one of two on the sniper screen. And when he or she chooses to say the code word banana bread, the sniper hears that and knows that it had to be someone in a conversation who was the spy. And so that's what you meant by a soft low light, right? You can low light people. Sorry, that's a hard low light if you see people aren't inside the conversation.
Hard low light is just, yeah, people outside of conversation. Hard is just things you know are true, and soft would be things you think are true.
Right. So it's like hard and soft information. Soft information is stuff that you're not entirely sure of.
Right.
Hmm. Um,
You could argue all highlights are soft unless you just like see a bug and are
yeah,
this and that.
there's a confusing piece of terminology that went around where someone I think it was drawn like I'd always called uh, for book transfer. So there's another mission. This might take a bit longer to describe. Sorry. There's a mission called Transfer Microfilm where you have to take.
I think I
Hmm?
I think I can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Can you
There's
explain
I'll
Transfer Microfilm?
I'll try. There's two ways to transfer a microfilm between books, and that's one of the missions. And the first way is to just straight up carry the book between bookcases, which I think is called hard transfer. That's what I call it. And then there's another way, which is like you press a button, which triggers an animation. So you put the film in your pocket, and then you gotta read another book and then put it back in there, and that's called the manual transfer.
Oh. Okay. So people will call it hard and manual because I'd always called the transfer where you pick up a book and put it into another bookshelf a soft transfer because I was like, oh, it's behavioral, so it's soft information. You're uncertain about it, so it's a soft tell. And the one where you have the animation, oh, that's something the sniper can see, so it's hard information, so it's a hard tell. And I heard people calling the other one soft and the other one hard, and I was like, ah,
Yeah, all the jargon getting thrown around gets ridiculous. I remember when I first read the wiki, the first term I saw, the only time I read the wiki, was an Egyptian spy, which I haven't seen used since I read the wiki. An Egyptian spy is an AI who acts like a spy. I'm still waiting for someone to use it, honestly.
an Egyptian spy.
Yeah, this
Okay.
was a while ago. It might have changed.
Yeah, I feel like the jargon has generally consolidated. So when someone asks, when playing for the first time, what the heck is a HL and a LL? It's easy enough to, or like everyone treats it as the same thing, so it's easy enough.
Don't try to bring this back to the conversation.
What am I, a host? So yeah, highlights and lowlights are interesting in the sense that uh, it's something where it's a piece of information about the party that the sniper has that the spy doesn't have, but the spy can have some idea of when someone is being highlit or lowlit via the laser. So the center of the sniper's screen is marked by a red laser, and spies use that to get some general idea of where the sniper's looking. But it can also be used for figuring out when highlights and lowlights are happening. So do you often pay attention to the laser for that sort of stuff for
Yes, and
highlights?
I'd hope everybody would. Uh, Paying attention to the lasers is like really important. Even I know I don't know if Magician still does this, but he used to like fake low light people, which was kind of odd, but it actually did fade out some stuff. So
Oh, so fake lowlight. So what does this mean?
he would just kind of like wave his laser over you and then be like gotcha later when you do a bug.
Oh, okay.
But
Right, but like what
you'd think you were low lit for some like pathing thing that
hmm.
wasn't really low lightable or
do you
something.
yeah. Do you think people might have mistaken that for a highlight? Because that's what's interesting to me is that the laser sort of tells you, okay, I think this person was marked by the sniper, but was it a highlight or a low light? I don't know, because the sniper, sorry, the spy can't see whether characters are being highlight or low lit from their screen. They don't have that information. So would people sometimes mistake this as that person's highlight? Because that happens to me all the time.
They might mistake it for that, and honestly, I think if you're fake low lighting random characters, they probably should be highlight. But what was I gonna say? I didn't really mistake it for fake for highlights just because they were things that I was like intentionally doing to get low lit,
Ah, okay.
and it was a bit of time ago before I learned that those are highlight worthy sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah, people also seem to use it from stuff that's not even related to marking suspicions, like the highlight and low light system, because it's just about helping the sniper manage their attention. People seem to use it in different ways. Are there any different ways you use it besides just marking suspicions?
Uh, yeah, I use it to keep track of people who I like. I highlight random people who I just want to remember did like two inspects at the start. And you'd say that's like suspicious, but it's not because I'd remove it really easily.
Hmm.
And I'll also just on high rise, so I can see through the glass for microfilm. I do highlight people at the blue bookcase.
Hmm.
just so I can see a bit easier.
Yeah, so on High Rise, one of the maps, it's a fancy high rise apartment. There's one bookshelf where, as we mentioned, there's a mission where you're trying to see if someone's doing this animation where they rub the side of a book and put the microfilm in their pocket. They're only half visible at this bookshelf because there's a thick sheet of glass between the sniper and the person at the shelf, so you can't really see them, but you can if you highlight them. So that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Hmm. Which is cool. Like it's I don't know if Chris, the designer of the game, I don't know if that was intentional or if it was just like, oh, I guess that makes the person stand out more behind the glass.
I think since it lets us highlight through it, I think it might have been in his mind since
Oh
you
yeah.
can't highlight through the freaking small glass. It's completely clear.
Yes. Then there's a smaller sheet of glass in front of that, like a balcony railing, and you can't highlight or low light squat through that. So that's what's funny is you know that there's a man in a wheelchair. Um he's harder to mark because he's lower to the ground, and so people try and mark him, but they can't because of the little sheet of glass in front of him. It's great.
So is the meta just to hang out by that window and then hope people like by accident miss?
No, I think the hope is hope the guy in wheelchair goes to the window because he obviously wants to because someone wouldn't be able to highlight. I don't know, like like I I think what's interesting about the highlight and low light is that it can be used for lots of different things, but then people know that it's used for different things, and so they'll try and dance around what they know the other person's expecting. Like a lot of the other stuff in the game, it's you're trying to learn about how the other person behaves and react accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons I picked highlight low light is because it kind of defines everyone's play style. I mean, if you look at somebody like you or me or KCM or Drawn or other people in the community, it's all just really different, and you can't really. You could say that about other missions, but like missions as spy, but not to the extent. It's just it gets abstract, and have you seen that thread? How to beat me at Spy Party?
Yeah, I think that was Crazy Kaylee, one of the top level camping players.
Right. Well, anyways, there were for those who don't know, since we're clarifying everything, there was just something that popped up, and one of the top level people, was like, "Hey, this is a guide to beat me at Spy Party," which was probably just kind of like sharing information. But the guide to beat him at Spy Party, which includes his highlights and low, um, I don't actually remember who responded after, but somebody did, and it
It
was
was
different.
KCM,
Oh yeah, right.
another high level player.
Another high level player, and then there's us in the mid upper whatever.
Yep.
Are we high level players? Because I feel like we are,
Um,
but
I feel like we are high level players relative to who we are playing.
right.
Like
You
if
see, I
yeah.
actually secretly wanted to derail the conversation to what I had originally wanted was talk about skill ceilings, but then you made me pick a mechanic.
Well, no. Hey, we can talk about
Oh,
skill
I can
ceilings.
switch halfway.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let me pick.
mean, people highlight and lowlight to distinguish between skill. Yeah. Let's talk about skill ceilings.
Anyways,
Yeah.
let's.
Skill
I
ceilings.
just wanted to. I don't know how long I'll take to talk about this, but Spy Party is kind of weird because I used to play TF2 quite a bit, unhealthily. I'd
Should we
say. Oh,
contextualize for the audience what is TF2, or should we not bother?
honestly, I think Google it,
Okay.
DuckDuckGo it, whatever you want. Uh, but in TF2, I have a lot more hours than I do in Spy Party because I don't know, I waste time. Anyways, I have a lot more hours in TF2, and relatively, I'm not anywhere close to like the same tier I am in Spy Party. Do you know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
playing
No,
other
I
games
do.
like that.
Like Spy Party is the first game that I've both I mean that I've gotten good at and also that I've wanted to get good at. Like A game like TF2, I played a bit, but I sort of stopped after a while. I just lost interest, or I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like it was something that I wanted to get good at. Whereas Spy Party is something that feels very interesting and compelling to me, and so I want to get good at it.
Right. But the main point that I was going to go on is that the top level player in Spy Party has like, I don't know, 450 hours, right?
Yeah, something like 500.
Which is no small task. I'll say, but I will also say TF2 I do have slightly more than that.
Hmm.
And it's just like, where is Spy Party going to go when people have I've seen people within TF2 with like 10,000 hours, which is
Hmm.
ridiculous, but and I
Well,
hope nobody
yeah.
here gets that. But
Well, I
what's
sorry, go.
I was just gonna say, what's it gonna be like at that level?
Yeah. No, that's an interesting question. I mean, that's a question that pops up a lot is will Spy Party run out of steam for the high level players at some point? Will like I don't think there'll be degenerate strategies, but will the sort of dance around what your opponent's thinking grow less interesting the better you get? And I don't know. Like that's still something we haven't found. I'm like KCM sort of talked a bit about feeling like he can start to sense a skill ceiling. But yeah, I don't know. Like another thing is even though like the sort of concern we've had is it's hard to explain this game to people. Like we just said, banana bread going off, and that's like a very seemingly random thing to say. But I feel like people learn the game quickly because it's mostly behavior and prediction. Whereas in a game like Team Fortress, a lot of it's muscle memory, and that takes longer to learn. So I feel like that's why people are getting to the skill ceiling faster, is just because the stuff you learn is stuff that people are fast at learning.
Right. Also, uh, jumping around, I just like to argue that I think that there's an initial gap between getting to the behavior level. If when you start, right, and you're in that 100 200 game range, I mean, some people do
And
try
a
to do
game's
it.
3 minutes. It's not like 20 minutes or something.
Right. But when you initially start, some people do try to get into the behavior thing, mostly with character select, granted. But that's kind of like the main drawing of Spy Party. I've always felt, but then I always felt that like in that I don't want to say low, but like a low mid place. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like it's more about hardtail camping. I've always felt because it's just so much harder, and you have to play the game and kind of learn it a bit before you can delve into like the main selling appeal of a game about subtlety and behavior.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mean that's why people sort of start by teaching people spy is because there's all the muscle memory you have to build to do that before you can uh but both people start out on spy because there's a bunch of rules you have to learn, but also because you need to know all those rules to play the sniper to know what you're looking for. So it kind of feels similar to that where you kind of need this foundation of being able to see tells to be able to think about the other person's behavior and trying to hide tells, I guess.
Yeah, it's like you can tell when like a new player's kind of hit that like becoming better point when like their spy games start to slowly stop being more than their sniper games,
Hmm.
which isn't true for everyone, but for like 99% of people.
Yeah, no, it's certainly interesting. Like I'm still feeling that tension of I tend to spend more time thinking about hard tells, uh, just because it's more graspable. Like I'm starting to get better at watching other people in the room with me as a spy and thinking about what they're suspicious for. But it still feels very much like I think about the hard tells. Um,
As spy, I'm
oh,
not
yeah, wait,
at
whoops,
that
sorry.
level.
As sniper.
Oh, I thought you were like starting to think about like looking at the laser to see how people were lit and kind of basing your actions off that.
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe
no,
I should do.
yeah. No, I tend to get confused. I'll like start and be like talking about the spy, but then I'll end saying sniper. Because like so Spy Party is an asymmetrical game. The two roles that you're playing are completely different. But I kind of feel like the party itself is the thing that's happening, and both roles are sort of are like getting half of a view of it, but both people are thinking about everything because you're thinking if you're the spy, you're thinking about doing your missions and hiding them, but you're also thinking about the sniper suspecting people and what they can see. So I kind of feel like that's what's the high level is. It's even when you're playing one role, you're thinking about what the other role's thinking. Like that's my idea of high level play. I can't do that, but that's my idea of it.
Yeah, I assume that's what high level play is like. I wouldn't know, but
Hey,
all
I
I
thought we
do
were
is
high level players. We just said that, didn't we?
I know, but like I don't know. All I do is just purloin every game and it works.
Yeah, remember that last game? Remember how that worked?
Yeah, well, I didn't say purloin twice every game.
Yes.
Anyways,
Seizureman pulled off an amazing purloin and then returned. Yeah, he pulled off an amazing purloin. He then returned the guest list after the purloin, and then he purloined again a second time right in front of my laser.
somehow I got shot the
Yeah,
second time.
somehow.
I don't even know.
Mm. Yeah, so like, have you? So you've sort of asked this question. Where's the skill ceiling of Spy Party? Do you have you when playing found something that's felt like it's as far as you can get in terms of uh, strategy or skilled play? Like,
In terms,
have you felt the ceiling
I
in
think I
your
get
play?
your question. So I felt the ceiling when I had like 50 games or 100 games, and I thought only in terms of looking for animations. And I was like starting to think I was like, how can you possibly be better at the game if all it is just looking for microfilm? Because I only played on beginner ballroom for too long,
Mm,
and I felt it there. And now as I approach, I don't know, I play a lot. As I do that, there are certain aspects I haven't really like taken a look at my reasons for highlighting and lowlighting in a while, and I think it will like kind of stale over time if I don't start adding new rules and subtracting,
mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like it's interesting the thing you said about you initially felt like, hey, I know what the tells are. I can feel where the edges of the possibility space in this game is. But do you feel like now in hindsight, thinking back on that was like a naive thought? Like, because I feel like people starting out think that they're like, oh, swap is really noticeable after it's done, so I should never do swap. This game's broken. And then they realize, oh, wait, um, the sniper doesn't know if I'm going to choose swap. Like,
I
do do you think that initial skill ceiling new players see in, oh, I know what the hardtails are, so I just watch the hardtails. Do like I feel like that's a false skill ceiling.
It's definitely a false skill ceiling unless you decide to completely develop into hardtail camping. But even then,
Mm,
I think it's completely false and naive to think that first of all, after 100 games, you're approaching the ceiling, and second of all, that all there is to Spy Party is looking for the tells and animations and pathing. I don't know though.
mm. Well, I think what was it? I heard someone talking about fighting games and talking about how people sort of derisively say, "Oh, it's just about hitting buttons. It's just about actions. It's not about strategy." Um, and like you know, you can argue the counter that no, you're like thinking about the thoughts that go into that. But another observation that came up was, hey, well, performing an action uh, at a virtuoso level takes a lot of dedication and skill and is an interesting like it's interesting to develop the coordination to move your thumbs in that precise way and like shorten the distance between thought and action. And I feel
Oh,
like
found a way to derail. Okay. Uh,
No, well, no, no, no.
I,
So the point is, I feel like there's a similar thing to watching missions and like watching um, uh, people trying to hide animations. Like I think there is a physical skill component to that as well. And like we talk about it as this is the less interesting thing, but I think there is something interesting just to the action of being able to look at people doing things. I think that is interesting. I think it is part of the appeal of the game is looking at people doing things.
yeah,
Just-
I do think the looking and observing is the muscle memory aspect of Spy Party, while the highlighting and lowlighting would be the thought aspect. Because, like, look at a map like Panopticon, which is probably the best example. At Panopticon, you kind of have to know how to move about the map and look around. I'd say more than the other maps
Wait, so
because
for people who don't know, what's this map Panopticon? What makes Panopticon different from the other maps?
oh my god, might as well just like say what Spy Party is again at this point. Uh, Panopticon is a map where instead of the sniper being able to potentially see everything at once, he kind of sits in like a tree in the middle of like a curved area, and he can just kind of sweep his laser across this curved area, but he can never see everything at once, and it just gives the spy a lot more information about where the sniper is looking, and if the sniper like waits too long in one area, or the spy can just kind of like swap bug transfer and all out of view or something.
Hmm. But and also there's a lot of people there, so it's more information for the sniper to deal with.
Oh yeah, 20 guests, but that's not important.
It doesn't matter. But yeah,
Uh,
sorry, I pulled the conversation away. So you were talking about Panopticon. What was the thing you wanted to say about Panopticon? I totally blanked.
I I think I was talking about Panopticon being like looking around at Panopticon being more important, and that kind of the learned skill of looking can really be applied to the map, and
Oh
like
yeah, oh, it's a good point. Does
but
it does feel like that?
before I moved too far away. I did mention I was going to derail this away from video games completely at some point,
Yes.
and
So you
this
were
is
going to
like
smoothly
legitimately
segue us away.
smoothly. I'm not going to talk about gardening, like I said, but I've been practicing something called cardistry, like very a lot recently. It's
Oh,
like you know how there's like magic, right?
how there's what?
There's like magic tricks and stuff.
Yeah,
Well, cardistry is kind of like the lame brother of magic tricks, where you just kind of like shuffle the deck, but it looks cool, I swear,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
No,
fun to
like
practice.
hmm.
I think you get it,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
So
think the
what sort
listeners
of
at
stuff have
home.
you learnt doing cardistry?
The reason I wanted to derail the conversation here was we were talking about like learning skills and muscle memory, and I've put like specific moves in it are called flourishes, right?
Hmm.
Card flourishes. I've put maybe like 20 hours or something into one specific card flourish, and
Wow.
I still don't have the learned muscle memory, and it takes time. And when it looks properly, like even it doesn't look that great, and people would say like, "Ah, you're just shuffling the cards," but it takes a lot of skill, and it's just like something you don't really think about when something looks simple or you're just mashing buttons.
Wow, that
Anyway,
actually is a really good segue. So, like, why do you
I
think it's
wasn't just gonna
compelling?
like completely like ruin your podcast. I was gonna make it relevant.
No, please ruin the podcast. There is not much to ruin.
Spy Party sucks. Checker develop faster.
But yeah, no, I want to hear more about this cardistry. So, like, why do you think it's something that is interesting enough to
Well,
do?
to me personally, I kind of like come and go with like odd hobbies that I wanna get like really good at a random hobby that's just like something that you could like mention and be like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool or whatever.
Right.
And the last hobby I did before this, like every now and then I'll just see something and it looks like so cool and I just want to learn it. And I kind of taken cardistry a bit further than base level, but the last one was lock picking. I learned how to pick locks pretty well for a while.
Oh, cool.
I know it sounds, I don't know,
All
I'm
your
not a
hobbies
delinquent.
sound analogous to Spy Party. It's funny.
Yeah, and then the other one would be 3D modeling, which nothing to do with it.
Are you kidding? The
It's
game is
just
about 3D models.
yeah, and it's just like I kind of like learning skills a lot, and just kind of the process of going through and learning a skill. I think it's enjoyable, anyways.
Hmm. Like maybe
I
that's
kind
part
of
of
like
yeah. Well, I
go let you.
okay. I was just gonna say maybe that's part of the thing that players like KCM are talking about when they're talking about skill ceiling is stuff to learn. Because I think maybe that's part of what like motivates you to learn new things is just that it feels nice to learn new things. And like at some point of Spy Party, you've like learnt most of the things.
Yeah, I think I hope at least set myself up in a way in terms of play styles where I could always be adding something. I
Hmm.
don't know if that's true, and I'll see as it develops. But I kind of have like my quote unquote rule system of what the spy would and wouldn't do to get those soft lowlights linking back to the beginning
Hmm. But then
a
you'll
while
sometimes
ago.
do random things.
Yeah, I'll just like be like, that feels right, feels wrong. I've started like highlighting people who stand completely away from the double agent in an empty conversation with only him in
Huh.
case of slow play,
Oh, that's interesting.
and I don't know if it works that well. I've caught like two spies so far, but I haven't used it a lot either, so
Hmm.
I'll
Well,
see as time goes on.
yeah, yeah. I mean that's also another interesting thing is the whole correlation versus data thing where like you'll catch somebody for a thing, um, but it could have just been like random chance. Like if they were an AI and did that, you would have shot the AI. Um, and and so I guess like you just need more time to figure out if it actually like nets you more wins.
Yeah, I'm always kind of conflicted about that because, uh, in addition to that, I have noticed that my rule systems they might they'll work with different tiers of players if that made sense. So that's one of the reasons that I kind of have to adapt them constantly. In addition to like sometimes it'll just be like, oh, I caught the spy for something dumb that happened once and was an anomaly. It'll also be like only players with less than 100, less than 1,000 games will do XYZ. If that makes
Yeah, yeah. Like they tend to be less self-aware of habits, and so it's kind of easier to build prediction about what they're going to do.
yeah. I think I've said if that makes sense like way too much. I don't know if that's the case, but
Yeah, probably not. You're fine. Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, it does make sense. So
that's good to know.
that's
I
good to
guess.
know. All right. Cool. Well, I think we've talked about highlighting and lowlighting. What do you think? Have we?
We did, but then we just went completely off of that.
I wanna Google
We did
cardistry
it.
and see some of these tricks. It sounds cool. You'll
I if uh, if you want to see like a cool video of it, look up like Run Rabbit cardistry. Not right now, but
okay.
Run. That's the coolest video I've seen. I think nice editing and whatever.
Cool. All right. You heard it here first.
Cardistry next big hobby. Spy Party community.
Everyone in Spy Party must perfect cardistry before they can play.
Because everybody listens all the way through to this point.
Yes, on any podcast. All right, cool. Well, I think that went pretty well. So like I'm still trying to figure out how we should like outro the show. Whether we should say, hey, if you want to play, try out this game for yourself, go to spyparty.com. We could say that, or we could just say goodbye.
If you
I don't know.
want to try Spy Party, go to my YouTube channel.
What is your YouTube channel?
I don't know the link. It's not seizureman. If you
Oh,
look it up, you'll find it, but
okay. Well,
it's not
anyway,
important. Don't look
thank
that.
yeah. Thank you, Seigerman, for coming onto the show and talking to us, sharing your thoughts.
I don't know. It's kind of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you if you're still listening to this for listening to this. We appreciate it. All right.
I know I listen all the way through, but that's just because I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and this is one of the shorter ones, honestly. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
cool. All right, well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week.